left it there some time ago." Bernice sat down and gasped, weak with relief and astonishment. "You are a wonder!" she cried. "Is there anything you don't know about the wilds of Florida?" "It's easy when you've grown up in them," answered her companion, but her manner grew a trifle more evasive. At this point Bernice bethought herself of the things she had brought in the back of the car and went to get them. "I had some things at home I thought you might like," she said half apologetically, and she presented her new friend first with a copy of one of her own favorite books. This was a wily move on her part, carefully thought out beforehand, for she wanted to discover, without direct question, if possible, whether the girl could read and where she had learned. Delight's eyes fairly sparkled when she saw the book and she seized upon it eagerly. And opening it at the first page, she read the title aloud. "Oh, you are good!" she exclaimed. "I don't even own a book of my own. I haven't read anything since—" She stopped abruptly, as if reflecting on the advisability of disclosing something, then went on boldly, "Not since I went to school at Fort Lauderdale." She seemed to think this a very damaging disclosure, for she halted again as if in suspense. "Oh, I thought you lived in the Everglades all your life," commented Bernice quietly, trying not to exhibit a sign of the excitement she felt at this revelation. "I have wondered how you managed to go to school." "Fort Lauderdale isn't far from the edge of the Glades," explained Delight. "That year—it was 3 years ago—Uncle Jerry was taking parties through the Glades regularly and our camp was on the New River, about 5 miles in from Fort Lauderdale. He was away so much and I wanted so to go to school. There was a little school near the edge of the town. I begged Juanetka to let me go and finally she said yes. I paddled there every day, 5 miles in the canoe. I learned very quickly to read. That's what I wanted to do most. The teacher was good to me and gave me extra time. I could not go very regularly for Uncle Jerry would come back, and then I dared not. He didn't wish me to learn. He can't read himself. He thinks it is a waste of time for me, not necessary. Juanetka did not tell on me. He never knew. But at last the season for the tourists was over and we went back to our old camp, way in the middle of the Glades. I never got another chance to go to school and I've never seen a book since." "May I ask, who was Juanetka?" asked Bernice, her curiosity at last getting the better of her caution. "She? Oh, she was Uncle Jerry's Indian wife. She died 2 years after we were at Fort Lauderdale. She was very good to me. I loved her." A shade of sadness crept into her tones at the mention of this incident. Bernice longed madly to ask her whether the Indian woman was a relative, whether Jerry Sawgrass was a relative, and what the strange connection was, but she dared venture no further along that line just then. She was too cautious to frighten the girl by asking more confidences than Delight might choose to bestow. Accordingly, she turned the conversation by presenting her other offerings, a box of homemade fudge, and one of the latest magazines, profusely illustrated and filled with interesting short stories. The gifts were received with a very passion of gratitude, apparent enough, though Delight was not unduly demonstrative in her expression of it. While she was poring over the pictures, Bernice sat longing to ask some of the score or more of questions surging through her brain, yet still scarcely daring. But before she had a chance, Sydney came hurrying over to them. "I just want to tell you that that Jerry and his wife are driving back. I went toward the road a way and just happened to see them coming slowly, way in the distance, but I'm sure it's they. I don't know why they're coming now. It's quite early yet." Instant consternation fell upon the two girls. Bernice wanted to fly and hide somewhere, and Delight got to her feet, swiftly gathering her new possessions in her arms. "I'll go away," she said a little breathlessly. "Stay here, both of you. Just act, please, as if I hadn't been here, as if you hadn't seen me. There's no harm in your being at this place if I'm not with you. And besides, I want to hide these things in a place I have, for my own things. I don't want them to be seen over there." She nodded her head in the direction of the house. "Delight," said Bernice, suddenly and impulsively, are you afraid of your uncle? Is he, well, unkind to you?" The girl opened her beautiful eyes wide with unfeigned astonishment. "Unkind to me? Oh, I just reckon not. Why, I am very fond of him." She motioned them a hurried good-bye and slipped away into the undergrowth with the smooth and silent dexterity of which she seemed a perfect mistress. And when she was gone, Bernice and Sydney simply stared at each other with dropped jaws and blank expressions. "Well, can you beat that last?" exploded Sydney at length. End of chapter 5.